All right, guys, so we got a bunch of horrifying moves from Trump and his regime over the past few days that I need to share with you. So let's start with this here. CBS News is reporting that the Trump administration is revoking the legal status of 530,000 Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. So the most crucial point here is they are legal immigrants, and he is revoking their legal status. So yet again, another example, the left completely and utterly vindicated when we said, hey dog, he's not just going to go after undocumented immigrants. He's certainly not just going to go after undocumented immigrants who are violent criminals. He's going to go after everybody. And that's exactly what we're witnessing here. Now, by the way, as you all know, the Cuban community overwhelmingly supports Trump and Republicans. Because a lot of the Cubans in this country, they were escaping Castro, right? Like years ago. And there's a lot of people who are here who are legal immigrants who hate the Democrats. When they think of the Democrats, they think of communism, they think of Fidel Castro. And now Trump is saying, fuck those people. I don't care if they're supporters of mine. I'm going to revoke their legal status and I want to get them the hell out of here. Look, we've talked about it, but ICE now has a quota of you have to get out at least 1,200 people per day. Well, guess what? There are not that many violent, criminal, undocumented immigrants in the country. Within the first week, all of them are going to be gone. And so then who do you go after? You go after people who are legal. You go after people who don't have any criminal record whatsoever. You go after children. You go after U.S. veterans. And that's what we've been seeing day after day after day. So this truly is out of control, man. I've never seen anything like this. All right, look at this here. Compilation of what we know about the people sent to Bukele's dungeon. That's the El Salvador slave labor camp that Trump is now sending people to. It includes a father of 5 doing food delivery gig work, Dallas father with U.S. citizen son who entered via the CBP-1 appointment. I think I'm supposed to say CBP-1 app, which again was going through the process properly, and a pro soccer player tortured by Maduro lawfully seeking asylum. These are some of the people that they're shipping illegally and unconstitutionally to an El Salvador slave labor camp with zero due process, zero habeas corpus, zero recourse and ability to get out and prove your innocence. This is what they're doing. If I had told you in 2015, when Trump first ran, when he was doing his campaign, if I had told you these were the sorts of decisions that he would be making, everybody would have been fucking mortified. If you polled something like this, it would have polled at like 8%. Right? But he's doing it now, and look, they're doing the Steve Bannon strategy of let's throw 100 horrific things at them every single day, and then it's hard for them to focus on all of those things, right? And so they end up getting away with so many things on a daily basis, which would be a scandal that would take down any other government, any other administration. All right, more for you. This one is horrific. You'll see the photo in a second here. 2 photos that should deeply disturb you. The first photo is of a young Venezuelan named Andres, a 23-year-old gay makeup artist who was disappeared by the Trump administration, recently identified publicly for the first time. Last week, he was deported into a Salvadorian mega prison without due process, without a court hearing, and without evidence, solely based on suspicion of gang ties. Because he had a tattoo, by the way. The second photo was captured by an American photojournalist embedded inside the same mega prison in El Salvador. The journalist documented the experience of detainees, including American residents who've had their constitutional rights suspended. This quote from the article should turn your blood cold. Quote, "The intake began with slaps. One young man sobbed when a guard pushed him to the floor. He said, quote, 'I'm not a gang member. I'm gay. I'm a barber.' I believed him, but maybe it's only because he didn't look like what I had expected. He wasn't a tattooed monster." Did this journalist unknowingly witness Andres' abuse and imprisonment? Why must we, citizens of the U.S., piece together these horrifying details while politicians ignore our courts, our Constitution, and the basic principles underpinning American democracy? If they can do this to Andres, who's next? Repulsive and evil, don't even scratch the surface. This is one of the darkest periods in American history, and we're living through it right now. So let me show you the pictures. Here's the guy right here. This is the guy. They said, oh, he's part of Tren de Aragua. We got to get him out of here. This guy's a violent criminal, gangster, thug, gangbanger. Look at him. This is the guy. And here's the picture taken from the El Salvador slave labor camp. Forcibly shaving their head. just call it what it is. This is un-American, right? This is un-American. There are many downsides of America and negative things about America, but there's also many things that we pride ourselves on. One of those things is clearly the United States Constitution and due process and rights. And Trump has shredded the Constitution literally within 2 months. Nobody has protections anymore. Nobody has protections. They do what they want and they deal with the consequences later, and usually there are no consequences. Oh man, but I'm not done. Here we go. This woman had a green card for 50 years. 50 years, was deported. Watch this.
Immigrated from the Philippines to Hawaii 50 years ago. She graduated from Farrington High School and had been working as a lab technician at the University of Washington. Dixon was returning home to Seattle from a family trip to the Philippines.
She was there for like a couple weeks, and then she returned February 28th, and she was stuck in customs.
Dixon's niece, Emily Cristobal, says she remained in limbo for 4 days, and then...
When we got the news, I think it was like March 2nd, that she got taken by ICE and then detained in the Northwestern detainment facility. And we haven't been officially been told why she's being held. They just keep saying that they're waiting for documents.
Cristobal is also the office manager for State Representative Tina Grandinetti, who's pushing a bill to provide legal representation for immigrants in Hawaii.
The targeting of our immigrant community is not just something happening on our phones and TV screens. This is a reality that's impacting our staff, our friends, our families, and our loved ones.
In her first term in office, Representative Grandinetti is using her platform to fight the Trump administration's immigration crackdown.
People in the United States are guaranteed the right to counsel under the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution, but that applies only to criminal proceedings. And immigration proceedings are civil proceedings.
Immigration attorneys say green card holders can be deported, but it has to be for cause.
Now we're seeing more and more people who are in detention who are green card holders, and it's usually because of prior convictions.
Cristobal says her aunt didn't become a citizen for family reasons in the Philippines, but has renewed her green card several times. And if her aunt had some kind of record, they would have found it by now.
She had to undergo background checks to work a state job in Washington. So that's kind of the part of like the missing puzzle piece that we don't understand.
Cristobal says Dixon's earliest hearing date will be in July.
It's like her life is here. Like her life is in Washington, in the U.S.
Ben Gutierrez, Hawaii News Now.
She's been here for 50 years. 50 years. These are not the people that any reasonable human being would say, yeah, target them. Like I said, they have a quota, 1,200 minimum per day. So they end up going after people like this. And they are brazenly unapologetic about this. By the way, listen to this from Kyle Cheney. ACLU attorney Gellert says there were people who were returned from El Salvador after the flights because they either weren't Venezuelan or were women, and the El Salvadorian government declined to take them. Boasberg, that's the judge that tried to hold Trump accountable, vows to get to the bottom of whether his order was violated. So think about that, guys. The president of El Salvador looked at some of the people that Trump was sending here, and he went, I don't know about all that, dog. I don't know about all that. You're trying to send me women? You're trying to send me women to go in our supermax slave labor prison? Now, I don't want to give him too much credit because, you know, he's accepting gay hairdressers and fucking professional soccer players and accepting that the U.S. has done no due process whatsoever and is ignoring the courts flagrantly. But when you got to even the president of El Salvador looked at some of the people being deported and was like, you're on your own on this one, dog. I'm not taking this woman. I'm sending her back. Holy cow, man. Holy cow. We are so out of whack. Here we have Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States. And listen to what she says here. Then I'll tell you what the true meaning of it is. Here we go.
The Alien Enemies Act applies today really more than ever. You know, old law is often the best law if you think about how the laws that have been on the books for a very long time. We are in modern day warfare. They have invaded our country, TDA, Tren de Agua. They are organized. They have a command.
She literally can't say Tren de Aragua. She always says Tren de Agua. We're at war with these people, but you can't even pronounce their name. Okay.
de Agua. They are organized. They have a command structure. They are sending money to each other throughout the country and out of the country back to support their terrorist actions. It's modern day warfare, and we are going to continue to fight that and protect American citizens every single step of the way.
So, by the way, you know how many Tren de Aragua members are in the United States? According to reports, it's hundreds. Hundreds. And she's saying, we're at war. This is modern warfare and we're at war. Now, why would she use that language? Why would she use that terminology? Well, I told you, I warned you about this the other day. There is evidence pointing to the fact that on April 20th, Donald Trump will say, I'm invoking the Insurrection Act. We're under martial law now. And the reason I'm doing that is because there's an illegal invasion happening from Tren de Aragua. And so now nobody has rights. Nobody has free speech. Nobody can protest. We're sending troops to the border, U.S. troops to the border, and I'm basically suspending the Constitution because I declare we're at war with Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan gang, even though there's hundreds of Tren de Aragua members here. So that's why they keep using this terminology of it's war, it's modern warfare, this is war, because they are prepping you for when Trump decides you're going to have, who is it? It is Pete Hegseth and Kristi Noem are going to do a report that they give to Trump, and the report is whether or not they think the president should invoke the Insurrection Act, right? Well, those two who are doing the report are the biggest sycophants and MAGA cucks in the universe. They're going to say whatever they think Donald Trump wants to hear. And have you ever known Donald Trump to say, I know you're offering me more power, but I'll pass on that? Never. Never. And so they're using this language again to prep everybody mentally for when they say, we're under martial law now. God, man. And then look, as I've said to you guys before, the courts have consistently said the right things in response to the Trump administration. The Trump administration, or I should call them the Trump regime, is losing every single time in court. But it doesn't matter because they just ignore the court orders and then nothing gets done. Right? So I don't think people really understand how bad this is. I really don't think they get how bad this is. All right. And then finally, again, this is Trump's border czar. This is the mindset that they're currently using with flagrantly illegal actions, deporting innocent people, having no due process. Listen to what he says here.
How do you determine, or how do your people in the field determine that somebody is a gang member?
Look, there's various methods. I've noticed in the media, a lot of them don't have criminal histories. Well, a lot of gang members don't have criminal histories. Just like a lot of terrorists in this world, they're not in any terrorist database, right? We only know the information within databases based on, for instance, most terrorists we arrest that are identified by the U.S. government are later identified through a Title III investigation or through an undercover operation. They're not in any terrorist screening database. We know that. A lot of gang members, I started as a cop in 1984. Many gang members don't have a criminal history. So we have a count on social media. We have a count on surveillance techniques. We have a count on sworn statements from other gang members. We have a count on, wiretaps and Title III. So everything involved with criminal investigations come into play. So just because someone hasn't been arrested and charged with a crime yet, doesn't mean they're a member of a gang.
But how do you, what we've heard from lawyers representing some of these people is that they deny that they're members of this gang, or either, Tren de Aragua or MS-13. Do they get a chance to prove that before you take them out of the country and put them into a notorious prison in a country that they're not even from? Do they have any due process at all?
Confident. Look, due process. Where's Laken Riley's due process? So
he's asked, hey man, these people, they're barbers, they're professional soccer players, they're gay, they're totally innocent, they have nothing, you just found some Hispanic person with a tattoo and said, I'm shipping you to an El Salvador slave labor camp. Do they have no due process? And his reaction is, where was Laken Riley's due process? Oh my God. So Laken Riley was killed by an undocumented immigrant. And the point he's making is, presumably, killing Laken Riley was bad, right? So that person is a vicious criminal that we hate, right? And so your reaction is, we need to be more like the vicious criminals that we hate. That's what he's saying. Forget the rules, forget process, forget the Constitution. We need to start acting like the person who murdered Laken Riley. As a government that's supposed to be civilized and developed and constitutional, we need to start acting like brazen criminal murderers He said, where was Laken Riley's due process? So we need to be like the people we despise. That's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. Again, this should be wake-up call number 7012, bro. Because we've never seen anything like this before. I mean, this is hit comical, absurd levels. And I'm not convinced, like, they could declare martial law and, have it centered first and foremost around the border. But then just expand it out and be like, any protesting of the Trump regime is illegitimate. You're not allowed to protest against the Trump regime. You're not allowed to protest against Tesla and Elon Musk, right? They're already saying they're going to charge people who vandalize Teslas with terrorism and potentially ship them to El Salvador too, American citizens. So, wake up, man. This fascism is spiraling out of control, and I've never seen something progress at such a rapid pace in such a short time frame, and it makes you shudder at the thought of what are things going to look like a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 4 years from now. It's a dark thought. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.